Welcome back everybody to another GB Studio tutorial video. My name is Robert Doman, and in this video we're going to be making an inventory system in GB Studio. So first of all, I'll show you the final product, which I actually haven't made yet. We're going to be doing it from start to finish with you guys, so you can follow along every step. I know some of you hate it when I have already created it, and then I show you, poke around and show you how I kind of did it. But I'm going to show you from start to finish, and everything from making the basic scripts in GB Studio, which we'll be pulling from the sample project, which we all have access to. We'll then be doing some visual planning, so we'll be thinking about what the inventory system actually is, and then making it in a program like GIMP, an image editing software. We're then going to be going back into GB Studio. We're going to be tracking some variables and scripting in order for us to think about tile sets and tile switching. We're then going to put it all together and test it, and then I'll show you what I've made and fix any issues that arise, and then we should be done. So first of all, welcome to the end of the video, guys. We have a inventory system that, when we open it up, displays 3 unique sections that may or may not end up leading to an inventory. Obviously they will. And when we click on a sign, for example, we get a sign in our inventory down the bottom. When we go over to the cat and the rock, we then gain a different part individually as well. So we interacted with the rock, press select. Now we have a rock in our inventory. Obviously the artwork isn't very good, but it's meant to be a prototype. And if we interact with the cat, now we have a cat in our inventory. That is beautiful. And if we open up the inventory again, it's all still there. It's beautiful. It's magical, and it uses very big sections, and we have the possibility of making very small sections as well. The idea is that these scenes are consistent. We have designed this. We've curated this inventory. We chose what would be in it at the very end, and we made the pieces so that we could make it so the player is happy with what they're looking at. It's not this overcomplicated mess. And we designed this. So back to me in the studio. This is GB Studio. You should have seen this before, I hope. If not, it's a drag and drop game engine. Let's make Game Boy games, which is absolutely incredible. And what we have here is the sample town. And I've just dragged in the start thing. So we start in here. So whenever we press play, we don't have to run all the way here. I'll show you how you do that. You can click on the background behind it, and then click the starting scene on the right here, and just click sample town, and then make sure that the pink or orange arrow is correctly placed in your scene, so you're not in a wall or something. And then you can start wherever you like. But the script was stealing from this. We're taking and learning from is pressing start and opening up the quest list. And then we have these quests, and it brings us right back to where we were. And to do that, let's have a look. Let's have a look how they do it. So we click on the background here. We click on the background, and it says cool script. It says command UI initiate menu. So it's a script over here. It's in the common, it's in UI, and it's in initiate menu on the left. Look on the right, after clicking on it, it says start, store the current scene on stack, and then change scene. So we're storing this scene that we're currently in, the player is currently in the sample town, storing it. It's saying, hold on to this, you need to remember this. And then it's sending us right here to this menu page, which then fades in. It pauses until we press something, and then it brings us over here, which pauses until we press something, and then it restores the previous scene from the stack. And the previous scene from the stack is the scene we just put on the top of the stack, which is which is the sample town. And so that is the basic functionality we're going to be using for our inventory. We press select rather than start, and it brings us to a different scene, and then we see what is in it. And what will be in it, who knows? Let's put a rock. Let's interact with this rock and put a rock in our inventory. And let's interact with this sign and put a sign in the inventory. How about that? Maybe the cat as well. Let's put all 3 of them. Cool. So basically, we want to make an inventory system that can hold free objects, and we will start by going into GIMP. And if you remember what GIMP is, it's just it's a free image editing software. And what we're going to do is we're going to click File, New, and we're going to go 160 wide by 140 high. This is the exact screen dimensions of the Game Boy, and therefore the scene size is necessary for GB Studio. And if we press OK on that, OK, then we can go jumping in, and we can also set a grid up. The reason why we want a grid is because tile switching uses grids, and that allows us to use one scene in GB Studio that that has all of the information in it, and we're not switching, we're not using other techniques to display what's in the scene. For example, we could have an empty scene that has nothing in the inventory, and then a second one that has a full inventory, and that's two different scenes, and you check whether or not the player has a full inventory or not. That would be a way of doing it. But in my way, we're going to be updating the tiles on the background. So I'm using colors on the right here that I have taken from gbstudio.dev/docs, and you see here we have these 4 colors, and they're just hex values that you can paste into your program, and then you have access to all the colors you need to make your artwork. So first of all, let's plot where these objects are going to go. So first of all, let's think about the boulder, because I think that will be the biggest, and I want to show off how big things can be, right? So let's make it quite big. Let's make it huge, really. We also want that sign, so maybe let's have a more of a rectangular one, and let's make it dark green. And then let's have the cat up here, more small, and make it light green. And there's no reason for the colors, it's just to differentiate them. And now we wanna put the artwork in here of like what it will look like once it's full. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go into my files, and I'm going to go into the file structure of the project, and I'm going to go to the assets folder, sprites folder, and I'm going to find those. I'm going to find those assets, and I'm not showing you this because obviously it's my personal file structure. But yours will be similar once it gets to the project files. So we want the rock, we want the cat, and we want the sign. Where's the cat? I'm dragging them in. So we now have a cat here. We have a rock here. And we have a signpost here. Cool. So we now have all 3. We wanted the sign down here, the rock here, the cat here. And all I'm going to do, I'm keeping this simple, I'm keeping this quick for you guys, is make the cat the size of this. Lovely. I'll make the rock the size of this. Lovely. And I'll make the signpost the size of this too. Let's turn off keep aspect. I know this is silly, but we're trying to be quick here. We're not trying to waste time. But I understand as well that it is important that you follow along. So I'm going to take away the green backgrounds. I'm going to merge the layers together so it's quicker. Take away the green, because the green won't be recognized by the background folder in GB Studio. This is just for sprites. So here we go. Deleted. So now, this will be the full inventory. This will be what the inventory looks like full. It's got a cat, a rock, and a sign. And this will look what it looked like empty. Yeah, it'll look like it has space for those items, but you don't know what's there. So next thing we're going to do is export this. But actually, there's an extra trick we need to do. each of these tiles that will be replaced needs to be unique. And that is an issue, and it's quite annoying. Basically, to replace a tile, it needs to be unique. Otherwise, it will replace every tile that looks exactly the same. So right now, these two tiles, if I replace this one in GB Studio, it will also update that one. So it would update the whole thing, and it would look like a tiling mess. Basically, you'll just have one piece of the cat replacing every single piece. And that might not make sense yet. So maybe I should let it fail. But I don't want to, because that will take time. And I've talked about it a million times with you guys. So what I'm going to do is create a new layer. And I'm going to write the numbers from 1 to however many are needed. And I'll speed up this process so you don't have to sit through this. I'm going to do it for the other two as well because of the same reason. It's you can't replace non-unique tiles and expect it to fill in, because it uses unique tiles to build scenes. And so if you replace what the unique tile is, it basically will replace every tile of the similar imagery. Okay, I did it. Maybe it took a bit too long. But the idea is that the reason why these are unique, despite having the same numbers from 1 to 64 on this case, is because they have different color backgrounds. And obviously you can go up to 99 with this technique in each color. And so that allows you to have, if you instead switch it out so that you got it on white and use the different color backgrounds, then you have so many. But the real limitation is the limit of tiles to the screen. And at one point that was 192. When you put it in color mode, that might increase. However, it might become unwieldy. But I recommend you do your own testing, as always. I recommend. So let's have a looky see what this will look like in GB Studio. So we're going to export as a PNG into the backgrounds folder of our project. And you won't see this of mine because it's my own personal file structure. But yeah, I feel as though I am jumping ahead because there is no reason yet for us to know why we're using these numbers. And it's because of tile switching, as I've said. And so let's have a look at the scripting. Let's start scripting how this menu will work. So we're going to go back a tiny bit, and we're going to say, let's create a new insert event before this menu script, and we're going to do attach script to button. And this time, instead of start, it's going to be select, and we're going to say store current scene on stack, just like we saw in the initiate menu script. And then we're going to change scene to scene 18, which is this brand new one that's we've put in most recently. It's probably a good idea to name your scene so that you can easily find it when you're looking for it in this bit here. See, now it's called inventory. We can literally search for it, and it doesn't matter where it puts us. But we're now in the inventory. We're imagining that we've now pressed start and we're in the inventory, and the main scene is stored on the stack. And now what? Well, now we need to know, are we holding the item or not? Should it display or should it not? So what we're going to do is we're going to go over to these little actors, and we're going to click on interact. We're going to do attach. Actually, sorry. We're going to do set true. And we're going to go down. We're going to scroll down until we find a variable that's not named yet. So variable 20. We're going to click on this little pen icon. We're going to rename it to, let's rename it to the cat. Okay, we'll actually put inventory first. Inventory cat. Oh, sorry, it's not a cat, it's a sign. Inventory sign, set to true. And then we go over to this rock and we interact with it, and we say set to true. We're going to find the script that's set to true, and we're going to go down again to the next available thing. It's variable 20, rename it to inventory rock. and we're setting that to true. And then we're going to go to the cat, and we're going to, just like it has here, scene cat, we're going to go set true, and we're going to scroll down to the next available variable and do inventory cat. Now I just want to check that I did that correctly on the sign. No, something went wrong. I guess I pressed escape rather than enter. Inventory sign. So that's true. There we go. So we can double check because we put them all with in alphabetical order. They all say inventory. So inventory rock, cat, and sign. We've got them all there. So if we go back over to this inventory, I guess the first thing we're going to do is attach a script to the button that gets us back to the previous scene. So we're going to do restore previous scene from stack like we saw, and that should be it. It should restore that scene. I'll double check though on here. Yep, that's as simple as that was. But with the last one it was a pause thing, but I've made it be on B. So when you press B it happens. That's fine too. So now let's press play. Let's just see what we have so far. So here we are again. We're in here. We're doing great. We're looking around. We're walking. We're doing the best we can. And we can interact with a sign. We don't know it, but it's been set to true, the variable. And if we press select, we're now in here. We haven't disabled ourselves like we did in the other scenes. So we're now walking around a jumbled mess of an inventory system. However, if we press B, we're back where we went. We're back where we were. How perfect. So now we just need to update the artwork to match what we're trying to achieve here. So to do that, we need to maybe consider the more difficult things here of tile switching. So first of all, let's imagine how this will work. So first of all, let's disable the player. So let's actually deactivate the player before we fade in. Perfect. And now we're going to have an if true, and we can say if we've picked up the inventory sign, so the inventory sign is true, then we want to do something, and if it's not true, we want to do something else. That's how this will work. And what we want to do is replace tile. And you might see that I type in these events every time, and that's just because I've kind of learned kind of what they're called, and I just type in to find it quickest. You can also use this drop down and try and find background tiles, or let's have a look else. Where might it be? So this is the problem with these things. Let's type in replace and see what it might say. Nope. Trying to do you guys a favor here, and it's slowing me down. Scene. Replace tile at position. Here we go. It was in scene. So replace tile at position. And then what we want to do, as you can see how this now works, is it chooses position. So we want to choose the first position of the inventory. But the inventory of the sign is the one we started with. So let's go over to the number one of here. And then we want to choose a tile set. You might think, well, my tile set isn't here. How do I get my tile set in there? Pretty easy. Let's go back into GIMP, and here it is. And let's hide this layer, show this layer. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to duplicate this this project or this thing by doing Command D. I'm on a Mac. I think if you do Shift D, maybe you think you can probably do File, Edit, maybe. Whatever it might be for you personally in your chosen program, but that's how I will phrase that. And we're going to put show grid again so we can see the exact lines of the tiles. And like we saw in that suggestion there, it uses tiles. So we are going to merge them all onto one layer as I've done here. And I'm actually then going to duplicate this again because we're going to show the grid and we're going to select each of these set of tiles, and this works perfectly because they're all rectangular. If they weren't rectangular, for example, if they were using an L shape, this will be much more annoying and difficult, unfortunately, because you have to separate and line up your tiles so that they are in a rectangular form. It may or may not make sense, and it may not matter yet, but I'm just warning you. So what we're going to do is go Image, Crop to Selection. So now we have all of the tiles of the cat, all in one place. And I'll show you what to do now. We do File, Export as PNG, and then we add it to the Tilesets folder of your project. And if you're in the sample project, it should already have a Tilesets folder. And if it doesn't, just make one called Tilesets, all one word, lowercase t. And we'll go back in here, and I'll duplicate this again. And we can highlight only the rock. Let's turn on the grid so we can make sure we're doing that. Image, Crop to Selection, and there's the rock. I'm going to duplicate this again, and then do it again with the sign. And I'm going to highlight it, and Image, Crop to Selection. And now we have 3 files here, all with the all with an object in. So we can use these I would now call tile sets, because if you count through 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, this is how we're going to reconstruct the image in GB Studio, and it's going to be beautiful. It's going to be beautiful. So let's do it. So I'm going to export each one of these to the Tilesets folder, and you're not going to see that. So we're back in GB Studio. To see the tile sets, you go to View, and then Images, and then at the bottom left here we have our tile sets. So we have now cat, rock, and sign. And let's go back to the game world, and now let's look at this script again. So we're in the inventory scene, we're in the replace tile, and we're looking at the sign. So let's just go to sign, and with computers, they start from 0. So unfortunately, we wrote 1 on our inventory thing right there. It would have been helpful if we started from 0 and gone up from there, because it relates to the tile that will be needed to be put in there. So we've got this position, tile 0, and now here's the task of putting 1, 2, 3, 4 until infinity on each of these. However, I wouldn't do that quite yet, because we're going to have to copy and paste it over and have the one to display as empty as well. So what I'm going to do is think about the tile that it will be displaying as empty. Unfortunately, on the cat, there isn't actually just a blank green one. So I'm actually going to go over to GIMP again, and we're going to have a look at the cat, and I'm going to fill this in. Ooh, it wanted to be black, right? So I'm going to fill this square in black. And you don't have to use the same tile set for the empty as you do the full, but I'm just doing this for ease and speed, right? So I'm going to re-export this, and we're going to see it updated in GB Studio already, I hope. And let's go to, oh, that's the cat one. The sign one should have an empty one, I believe. Let's have a look. You see, you might be able to see it. It's a tiny thumbnail image, and this will make a nice pattern. Let's use this image here. It's got like a L shape, I guess. So like I said, we're gonna actually put this in a group, actually, because we know we're gonna be copy and pasting. This will speed us up. So we're gonna place down all of these, and at each point we're actually gonna move across by 1. So we've got 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And as you can see, this is kind of tedious. Okay, so I've done every single one, but I'll have to double check because I was rushing. And we know we make mistakes when we rush. Okay, so now this will be the empty. So this is if inventory sign is false. So we put that there. I'm copy that again and paste it there. And now here's the change we're going to do. So instead of it having tile 27 each time, we're doing tile 0, tile 1, tile 2, tile 3, tile 4, tile 5, like we started with. So now that we've set up the empty, we're now setting up the full, and the full obviously has a unique tile or the next tile in the sequence for every single one of these. And the great thing about the tile set is that you're allowed to have repeating tiles in the tile set, and it will happily, it won't ignore them like it did in the past, and it won't ignore them if they're unique. So you can have whatever pattern you need in the thing there. And I'm already thinking of a way of speeding this up is by using an expression here and adding 1 each time, and then checking is it higher than this value, and if it is, setting it to 6 or whatever it needs to be. Yep, 6, and then adding 1 on the Y instead. That would be a way of speeding this up. Speeding it up temporarily. It would speed up large. If you're doing this a million times, that would speed up. But I'm just showing you. This is perfect for prototyping. You can put together anything without having to know much code, because that's what I'm really doing this for. I'm doing for the people like me who didn't start with coding. I started with art, and the coding was actually quite daunting, though the imagination of it was fun, knowing that I could make anything. But let's have a look at this now. So this should work, guys. The idea is that when the scene starts, if you have the inventory sign, it should display an inventory sign. If it doesn't, it should display an interesting pattern. Let's see how true that is by pressing play. And we're already in. So if we press select, boom, it's replaced all the tiles. It looks like a chocolate bar. How cute. We press B, we go back out, press select again. Still hasn't changed. What will change it though is talking to the sign. Does it work? Okay, we talk to the sign, press select. There it is, guys. We set the value to true, so when the scene opened, now it's a different image. Simple as that. And we just have to do that 3 more times, and I won't show you what that looks like because I've just shown you, and I'll just do it and then cut to how it looks in the end. And actually, I think I'll do that algorithm thing I thought of. So wish me luck. So I did a lot of trial and error, and I'm now using a for loop to go through every single tile position that it's necessary in order to display each of these squares. As you can see, that the fade in speed was slowed down because we're doing so many calculations before it actually fades in, which might be an issue, and doing it by hand might actually be quicker because it's not having to test and check variables every single time. I'll show you in a minute how we do it. But let's go and interact with the sign, sample town, and there we have the sign. And if we interact with this cat, meow. Now if we press select, there's a cat in our inventory. How nice. And if we go and interact with this rock, then there is now a rock in our inventory. And let's have a look at the scripting for that. So if you click on the scene, we can see we have the inventory sign, which I did by hand. As you can see, every single one is referencing every single tile, all by hand, and each of the values needs to be correct every single time. And if one of the values is wrong, then it will display incorrectly, but you'll be able to see which one it is and easily go and check. And then if we have a look at the rock, we now have a tile counter. So it's counting from 0 to 63. Really is counting from 0 to 64, and if it's on 64, it stops. And it has a tile Y position and a tile X position. So it knows to start in this position 10, 2, which is X 10, Y 2. And if you hover over a scene, you can see just here, that also shows the XY value coordinates, which is very helpful. And that means you don't have to go 0, 1, 2, 3, 4 every single time you're trying to look for a coordinate, especially in scenes that 120 something tiles by 120 something tiles. That'd be crazy. So next we have a for loop. And so to get a for loop, we just type in loop here and then loop for. Loop while loop and loop while math expression are basically the same thing in my opinion. I've tried all 4 of them while experimenting because I forgot to put in one single value, which was adding the adding the tile X value each time. So I went through all of these and I found them all to be the same in the end. Is it that while or for or during, while this math expression is true, then we're going to be doing whatever is in the math expression. The loop is the odd one out, where it just will loop indefinitely, and you have to break it out yourself. So I opted for the for loop because it has an automatic counter built in. We said add a value of 1 and its tile counter from 0 to 64, and when it's equal to 64, then we break out. And basically we have the tile, we're replacing the tile at position, and this time when you hover over it, it doesn't actually help us. We just have to remember that tile X is set to 10 right now, so that's here, and tile Y is 2, so that's right here. And then the tile set is rock. That's the only thing we can't really update using using the script function over here. And then the tile counter, instead of us having to replace each one and add 1, we just use the tile counter because it's being used for the for loop. It's perfect. And then we also do the same. We add 1 to the tile X variable each time. And so it means that it moves along the grid. And then when it's greater than the value of 17, which is this one, so if it was to be here, it would then be put to 10. It gets set back to here. And it adds 1, so the Y value goes up by 1. That's what's happening right here. And it does that until it's counted every single tile, within there's 64 tiles. And it does that. And the only difference between the full inventory and the empty inventory is that the script for the replace tile doesn't reference the tile counter. It just references this empty blank tile on the rock, in the rock tile set. And that's the difference. And for the smaller set, we just change how many tiles across it goes, and then we can make it not go too crazy. That's basically what it is. You see here, starts at this, obviously says a specific point, and then adds on the exact places to go and when to stop doing what it's doing. Took some working out, and I don't recommend doing it your first time. I recommend hand doing it, because then you appreciate why this is important, if it's important. Might not be important. If you have a very small inventory system, this won't be an issue. And even if you have complex inventory systems, it only works when they're square. You'd have to code in some extra specific stuff for more complicated stuff. But it works for replacing big chunks. So yeah, consider doing this kind of algorithm. I don't know how you'd really call it. So yeah. Do you guys have any questions? Obviously, it's a bit long-winded, so to say, of how you make an inventory system. Basically, you would figure out the scripts that you want. For example, storing the scenes on stack and replacing tiles at position. And then you use the built-in tileset features to replace the tiles, and you make the artwork for the empty and the full, and you end up with what we have right here, a lovely custom inventory system. And I hope you can imagine how you'd make this better. This is obviously very simple, very boring, and doesn't look very nice, and it's just because it's a prototype. And hopefully you will also be able to figure out how to make your own. And I hope that you also don't follow me exactly, like you don't put the big sizes or whatever. You think about your own game and how you might do this, because we learn more when we trial and error on our own, and we think about what kind of places we would want this in our own game. So yeah, I hope you found this valuable, and I hope you can see the potential, and I'll see you in the next video. Thank you so much for watching. I'll put my patrons up on the screen right now.